Welcome everyone to this amazing encounter where Anish Giri takes on the young talent from Mumbai, Aditya Mittal. This is going to be an epic encounter. Anish with the white pieces. He's so well prepared and so is Aditya. It's going to be a battle of preparation. Who has come better prepared on the board? It's Sicilian. Whoa, that's going to be sizzling now. Let's go. E4, C5. What is Anish playing? He thinks a bit and goes knight to F3. Generally, he keeps a very good track of the young Indian talents and he would know Aditya Mittal very well and his strengths and weaknesses. So that's the reason why, look at Anish, how he's thinking. He's like, okay, if Aditya's gone E6 and if I play this, maybe he would go for this. So might as well try for something totally different which would throw off my opponent off balance and where I can use my experience over the young talent who's just 2006 born. I think these are the thoughts that are going on in Anish's head as he tries to figure out what his third move is going to be. Very interesting. And I mean, there are clearly a few options here. You can go D4. You can also play G3, a little move there. There's also a move like C3 possible. But I think these are the only moves, right? There are no too many possibilities. And both players not really looking at the board. Anish definitely trying to think of all the repercussions. Is he really thinking about the next move he wants to play or maybe something else? I believe he's thinking about what the move should be. And it's almost been 1.5 minutes. He has to make a decision there. And this is the thing about these top GMs. They actually try to figure out which line they feel are they well prepared in, which line would be the most uncomfortable for their opponent, which line would, cause troubles to their opponent, and all of these thoughts have to be taken into consideration before you make this move. And this is not to be done lightly because it kind of gives the flow to the game. This is a great psychology that we are able to learn at this point, and I think Anish has just sort of come to a decision what to play or not. Aditya also waiting for the move. And Anish now, yes, he's made a decision. You can see he's now in that pose where he's about to make his move. Come on, Anish, let's make a move. Let's go. 127 from 131 he's come and he plays C3. Whoa, and look at Aditya, he's instantly plays D5, showing Anish that all your thought was not very useful because I am prepared for C3. This is psychology. Oh, Anish plays E5 because he wants to play D4 and advanced French, and Aditya says no French. D4, D3, knight C6. Look at the speed at which Aditya is making his moves. These young Indian talents, they are not intimidated by world-class GMs. They just keep making their moves quickly and want to show the opponent that they are well prepared. Of course, Anish is well versed with all these tactics. He's been playing at the top level for well over 10 years now. So for him, this is not really new thing, but it feels like Aditya is so well prepared even in this sideline. However, this line has become recently quite popular, and you can see that what Aditya wants to do is put pressure on this E5 pawn, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's attacking here with both his knights. And so for Anish, it's not so easy to defend this pawn because if you play bishop f4, the knight will take it, and that would be a very good exchange for black. So you want to defend e5, and that's the reason why he plays his queen to e2, and Aditya instantly attacks it one more time. Now to defend it looks very difficult. Of course, Anish is still in his preparation here. And I think the move that he's going to come up with is going to be very interesting. He goes knight a3 and bishop d7 instantly. Now, let me just show you the point. If you take here, I take here, then I have bishop f4. But if you take with the queen, here's the classy move, bishop f4, bishop e4 with the idea of f4. That is a very interesting concept to know. Anyway, Aditya knows all these tricks. He goes bishop d7, Anish plays knight b5, queen b8. Look at Aditya's clock time, 1 hour 35 minutes. And Anish may be regretting his decision of going into this line perhaps, because, you know, the main idea of playing c3 was to sort of surprise your opponent. But instead of getting surprised, Aditya is blitzing out his moves. By the way, this same line was played at the European Club Cup recently in October. So clearly Aditya has also seen that. a6 played, now the knight is attacked. And Anish down to 1 hour 8 minutes as Aditya gets up from the board. He has 1 hour 35 minutes and 41 seconds. He goes knight a3, and I think the only time that Aditya might lose is actually coming back and sitting on the board to make his next move. And he instantly takes it. Now, his plan is to take this knight on a3. And we already know that taking this pawn is not going to be easy, because Anish brings here his knight and bishop check. Well, this is the first new move, because in that game, b5 was played, and after ncd2 white was better. So check, Anish goes bd2, Aditya still in his prep, bishop takes d2, and Anish down to an hour almost, and rook a7. Whoa, what sort of prep is that? He actually plays against knight b6 move to attack here, and he's ready for this check, because if this check, king e7, and later this pawn is loose and this is hanging, and what Aditya doesn't want to do is basically play the move b5 here. So that's the reason why rook a7 is played. Anish now thinks for nearly 10 minutes, plays a4 and gets up from the board, because he's confident that he's now brought Aditya out of his prep. So from 1 hour 37 minutes, Aditya now down to 1 hour 26 minutes, his first long think of the game, plays his pawn to b5, and Anish now chops off the pawn first. And you can see that the advantage of having the king on d2 is that your rooks are connected. But the disadvantage is that this king can become really weak. AB played, and now the knight jumps in to d6. Fantastic. This is a check. Now Aditya has to bring his king up the board. King e7 played. And now some threats here, right? Knight takes e5, and then d6 could hang. But Anish doesn't care. He goes h4. And it's not so good idea to take this, because tactically it doesn't work. So he goes queen a8. And that is a wise move. This is perhaps the best. So Anish takes. Rook takes on a7. Queen takes on a7. And now if you play h5, then there is queen a5 check, which is a little bit problematic. So that's why he goes rook c1. Now if queen a5 check, the king is nicely tucked in with the rook on the other side. So that's the point. Now the only move for Aditya to equalize in the game is f6. Very well played by Aditya, because now with f6, the knight is a bit shaky. Also if you play h5, e5 is hanging. So takes on f6, and you cannot really take here, because this rook g8, and there are many moves like knight g5, and the king is actually very weak. So that's the reason why he takes back. G takes f6. And now what is Anish going to play here? What is Anish going to do here? He can actually draw the game with knight f5, king f7, knight d6, and repeat the moves. But he goes for an ambitious approach. He goes knight e4, rook c8. And I think this is what Anish has missed here. That if he goes king e1 trying to run away, then knight b4 is a fantastic move. With rook c8, there is a check. Queen d1, there is knight d3, and black becomes better here. So that's the reason why he cannot run away, and he has to play h5 move. But now both the players sort of getting up from the board, sitting down. Knight e5 played. The time has almost become equal. Anish has 34 moves, and you can see Anish was a little bit surprised with this move. He was thinking knight f8 is the best move, but he goes here, knight takes knight, and now knight takes on e5. Maybe. But then Could be possible, but Aditya first gives a check, intermezzo. He plays this check and does not let the king run away. So Anish plays king d1, and I think you have to play another check, because if you take on e5, then after take and queen c2, white is clearly pushing here. So that's the reason why he first gives another check. Very important move. He can actually play king d2 and maybe draw the game, but Anish goes queen c2. He's not so happy with this position, you can see, and Aditya with these couple of queen checks has made his position quite solid now. If the queens are traded, he shouldn't have too many problems. Okay, he thinks a bit here, and now what is the move he's coming up with? He takes on e5. And queen takes on a4. It's a good move. And now rook takes on c1. Amazing. King takes and b takes a4. So let's take stock of the situation after taking here. Who's better? Because d3 is slightly weak. Anish goes knight c5, and his idea is to attack this pawn, but you can literally sense it that Aditya's position is for choice, because bishop b5, he would attack this twice, and he does it. He plays bishop b5, and Anish has a tough choice now. What to play? He goes king d2 defending here. Now Aditya would love to play king d6, but then there is knight e4 check or knight b7 check. So maybe to stop knight e4, he first goes f5, and maybe now he's threatening king d6 in the position. So a good idea to kick this knight away, and that is what Anish does. He plays f4, he kicks the knight away, and this knight has to go. Knight g4 might be a little bit offside, so you could go knight d7, and now if you take here, king takes, this might be a draw, but white has to be accurate somehow. It's not so simple. So that's the reason why Anish keeps the knight, goes knight b7, and says to Aditya that your king cannot move out from here. But at the same time, his knight is a bit trapped, isn't it? Knight on b7, h6 played, pawn moves forward, and now here white plays bishop f3. Anish just improves his bishop. Aditya can still press here for sure. He pushes his pawn to e5. Excellent move with the pawn push. And now fe takes the pawn. Knight takes on e5, attacking once again the bishop and the knight, and bishop and the pawn. And Anish goes back to d1, so that if now knight takes d3, there is bishop e2 pinning, and if you play bishop takes d3, then I can take on a4. So he goes back knight d7, and now Anish, what is his plan here? He goes bishop f3. If Aditya wants to continue playing for a win, he can try and maneuver his knight this way, but he actually goes knight e5, and they agree to a draw. Anish with a smile on the face, and also Aditya. Well, it seems like there was pressure on Anish throughout the game. A great match by Aditya, great play by him.